Morning, people. We shout out Carlisle. I was on a live there. Obviously, I was only a couple of minutes in and my son turned up. Proud moment there for me. My son has passed his test. He's turned up there in his new car. He was just on the way to the gym. Random visit. I haven't seen him for 4 or 5 days. I trained with him on... No, I haven't trained with him on Tuesday. Yeah, I haven't seen him for a couple of days. And he had his test day before yesterday. He passed. And I'm absolutely made up. You know, what a proud moment to have him come turn up in his new car just randomly on the way to the gym. Yes, Cams. Good morning, lass. How are you? Merry Christmas to you too. I think me and Archie are going to shoot down on the 29th and Ginger. So we'll shoot down on the 29th and I might just be there for a day. I think Ginger's going to stop a couple of days. I'll probably just come with Archie for the day. But I hope all is well. Big up the Burnley Massive. Yeah, we will. 100% Cams. We'll be there. Spikey speaks out. How you doing? Lady Flat Capper, PG Topper, Dan Boy, Chelsea Darts, Nigel Farrow, the Mad Hatter, living the dream. Hope everyone's well. Who watched the boxing last night? Now, been a lot of talk about the boxing last night. For one, I enjoyed it, right? I did enjoy the boxing. Now, the Daniel Dubois Miller fight, Big Baby Miller, for me was the best contest of the night. You know, what a fight. Now, that was one of those fights really where whoever didn't win kind of wasn't really going to go any further. Excuse me. Now, I was made up for Daniel Dubois. Absolutely made up. Now, it was one of them. It was the best I'd ever seen Daniel Dubois. I've never seen him move that well. I've never seen his shot selection. You know, there was no fat, no drag on his punches. I just thought he looked brilliant against a massive Baby Miller. You know, he's probably one of the biggest heavyweights around, 300 plus pounds. And he troubled Daniel Dubois a few times. In fact, it looked once or twice like, you know, like Baby Miller was going to stop him. But credit to Daniel Dubois. He showed his heart. You know, he showed his heart. And I was just so pleased for him that he can go on. He's letting people know that he's still in the mix. You know, so I was absolutely made up for him. The Dimitri Bivol fight, I mean, it was decent. You know, Lyndon Arthur put up, you know, not bad resistance and took him 12 rounds. And I say fair play to him. You know, he should be proud of himself. It was a good fight to watch. The Wilder Parker fight, right? Now, I wanted Joe Parker to win, and I was buzzing that he got the win. Now, Deontay Wilder, I thought would have knocked him out at some stage, but that was the worst Deontay Wilder I've ever seen, and that could well have been due to the pressure that Joe Parker put on him. Brilliant game plan, roughed him up, won every round in my opinion. You know, wasn't troubled once, even though he was caught with one or two big punches. But Wilder, for me, you know, is terrible. You know, I really do think Deontay Wilder is terrible. He's got a massive right hand. Of course he has. But it's like he hasn't even perfected a delivery system for that right hand in the whole time that he's been around. And if you look at his resume, you take away Tyson Fury, his next best opponent was Luis Ortiz, who was in his like mid-40s. So his resume is very shallow. You know, his skill set's extremely poor. He's got no feet, no movement, no nothing really apart from the right hand. There's been some speculation that Deontay Wilder is the biggest puncher in heavyweight history. Oh, please. Anyone that says that simply does not know the heavyweight history. If you go back to the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, any top 10 fighter of those three eras would have wiped the floor with probably anyone these days, in my opinion. They say, yeah, Deontay Wilder's got freaky power. Right, Deontay Wilder has got freaky power, okay? So if you go back to the eras of, let's say the 70s, 80s and 90s, every single fighter had freaky power. 80-90% of the fighters had freaky power, but they had more than freaky power. They had freaky power in both hands, not just the right hand. They had skill sets, and they had all the other attributes that make a fighter special. Deontay Wilder is not a special fighter. He's got a big right hand, and that's it. So I don't really think he's going to box at this level again. I would like to see him with Joshua, and I think Joshua wipes the floor with him, to be honest. Anyways, that's my take on Wilder. You know, and just watching him last night was like painful. All the time he's been in the game, you know, Olympic medalist and so on and that, you know, and it's painful to watch. It's okay when he's fighting divvies and he gets time to do what he wants and he's got all the time in the world to set that right hand up. Yeah, look, fair play. But if he's in with anyone of a decent caliber, you know, he can't do what he can do with divvies. So he's not special. You know, he isn't a great fighter. He's not the biggest puncher in heavyweight history. Plain and simple, he's just not. Dubois beats Wilder. Yeah, I would say that as well. Chelsky. Bivol has incredible hand speed. That's true. He shot selection and his clever pressure is brilliant. Sorry if I've missed a few comments there. I can't catch them all this morning. The main event, Joshua. You know, he handled Wallin not, you know, with ease really. But what I wanted to say was my point on this Saudi lot getting involved. Initially, and I've said this publicly, I thought it was bad for boxing. I thought fighters going to Saudi, these Saudis getting involved, I thought was bad for boxing. Now, I take that back because those fights that were made last night, the Dubois Miller fight, you know, high risk fight for both of them. The Bivol fight, you know, Lyndon Arthur, arguably that could have been made. I mean, Bivol was a heavy favourite. But on paper, I think Dubois had probably been a slight underdog, if I can imagine. Now, Parker, Wilder, both high-risk fights for both of them. And Otto Wallin and Anthony Joshua, high-risk fights for everybody, right? Those fights could not have been made in the UK. Eddie Hearn, you know, with you know, a normal budget, couldn't have put those fights together. So, yeah, you've got to commend these Saudis, really, because money talks. These fights are getting made because the money's there. No way could those fights have been made just, you know, at some show in the UK, the O2 or something. No way. Forget about it. You wouldn't have got that card together. And in fairness, the last 4 fights on the bill were all main event fights, weren't they? So, we've got Chinokio in the comments. What's happening, Chava? Now, like I say, on paper, there was a lot of high-risk fights. And I think that's probably why this Saudi money is going to be good for boxing. I think is this Saudi platform is going to be like the new Vegas. You know, once upon a time it was Vegas. You know, you clear up domestically, European, Commonwealth, then you get a shot at Vegas. Well, I think, yeah, of course I am. Need bother. I'm going to make a video anyway later, Paul. Tear you to shreds, so be careful. Right. Oh, I'm getting it now. Paul, stop with your idle threats, right? Silence, or I'll block you, you absolute clown. Right. That's why I think this new Saudi platform is like sort of going to be the new Vegas. The money's going to be there. And at the end of the day, they're going to be able to make the fights what you can't really make domestically. You're not going to be able to make that card that you made anywhere else apart from Saudi because the money's there. Now, when you compare money in other sports, compare money in football, American football, basketball, mega money. So if you compare in boxing to that sort of money that they're getting, in my opinion, there's no such thing as an overpaid fighter. There isn't such a thing as an overpaid fighter. When you've got all these other sports stars getting all this other billions and millions and whatever they get in contracts and yearly money, you know, who can say that a fighter's getting too much money? Nobody. Nobody can say a fighter's getting too much money. I wipe this loud, him easy work. Listen this. Paul, this live's not about you, mate, all right? So shut up. Now, next fights, who do we want to see? I'd like to see, even though Wilder was cack, I'd like to see Anthony Joshua fight him now. You know, and it's at the point where, like, we'll sort of say to Wilder, look, like, you'll get what you're given. Like, this is your final big payday. You know, there's X amount of pounds. Take it or leave it. Like, you're not in a position to make demands anymore, Wilder. Like, we're going to feed you to Joshua. And that's it. That's the fight I would be looking to make, just because it's, at the time, as it is, they're still stars, the both of them. So, I'd like to see Joshua and Wilder. Obviously, I want to see Usyk and Tyson Fury. And obviously, I want to see Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. You know, now, they're the fights to be made over the next couple of years. So, this Saudi money is the only real platform that's going to be able to get those fights over the line. You know, Frank Warren and Eddie Hurt, on a normal budget, you know, you're not really going to be able to get it. And I'm pleased for everyone on that card because they've all got paid handsomely. Joshua versus Zhang. Here we go. The Chin said something that's worth listening to. Joshua versus Zhang. Definitely a fight I'd want to see as well. But like I say, I'd like to see the other fights made first. But if that fight got made, that would be a belter. Now, you know, moving forward, for Daniel Dubois, I'd like to see him back in the mix. You know, I'd like to see him maybe against a Joshua, or him and Joe Parker, I think would be a good contest. You know, they've both been in with Joe Joyce, you know, or even, you know, put one of them in with Zhang. You know, Zhang got a mention before there off the Chin. So that, you know, it's getting spicy, right? It's getting more and more spicy now. I'll be honest, that card last night got my interest back in boxing. I fell out with boxing, you know, high-level boxing. I fell out with it. I couldn't be bothered with the politics. The right fights weren't getting made. But, like I say, I take back what I said about these Saudis. I really think that it's going to be good for boxing, purely because the fights are going to get made, because people can't, the fighters aren't going to be able to say no to that type of money. So these fights are going to be getting made. And at the end of the day, the money is the only reason these fights don't get made. It's the only reason why, you know, I mean, imagine if these Saudis said, right, we just want like a round robin, going to do a big tournament. We want it staged over like 6 weeks and just everyone fight each other like it used to be, like a round robin. Yeah. People aren't afraid of taking risks. People aren't afraid of losing fights when there's big money on the table. You know, if it's big risk, big reward, then everybody's game. Oh, jumping jack flash, mate, you shouldn't have. But I absolutely will. Please, anybody, you know, we don't really ask for donations on this channel. I would rather if nobody else gave any money to this channel, you know, we're doing fine over here. I really appreciate that Jumping Jack Flash, and I'll definitely treat the kids. But anybody else, please keep hold of your money. It's Christmas, you know. Keep it in your own pocket. Armchair Arthur, don't you know? Where we at? Oh, no, it's not. It's the Armchair Cornerman. Thoughts on the Brits doing so well in UFC recently? Buzzing. Absolutely buzzing for them. You know, there's never really been a case where a Brit is fighting somebody else and I've never been behind them. I'm always behind the British, even if it's a Brit that I'm not particularly fond of. You know, I'll always get behind them. I've even been behind Darren Till before when he's fighting people across the pond and that, you know. I'll get behind anybody that's British than fighting outside of, you know, the domestic region. But yeah, watching that fight last night, the Daniel Dubois, Big Baby Miller fight, had me on the edge of my seat because the more I was watching the first round and I was like, just another fight. And then in the end, I was laid down at first. In the end, I was sat like this on the edge of the couch, like go on, Dubois. I was buzzing for him. The more the fight went on, you could see the more heart and grit and determination he was showing. You could see what it meant to him. And I was absolutely made up for him. And that's what brought it back for me because emotionally, I've just been flat towards boxing. I've had nothing invested in it. I didn't really care who won or who lost. But last night changed things a little bit. And it was Daniel Dubois that done it for us because I was made up for him. You know, he deserved that win. Say what you want about Big Baby Miller. You know, he's massive. And he's very a physical man. Forward all the time, hanging on him. And I thought at some point, you know, Dubois was going to gas. He went through the geese in that last round and stopped him. That was high level stuff from Dubois. The commentary, by the way, last night was disgraceful. They didn't have a clue what they were talking about. Half the time they weren't giving fighters credit in the appropriate areas. It was some biased stuff. I mean, when Dubois first started in that first couple of rounds, the commentators were saying he looks scared. He's frantic. He's not standing still. He looks scared. Mate, shut up. Who are you to say a fighter looks scared? Like, what's to say that they weren't his tactics? Sticking and moving? Who's going to stand there in front of a big man like that in first round? Like, they really didn't know what they were looking at half the time. They were, oh, listen, Spikey speaks out, my brother. I really appreciate that. But please keep your money in your pocket, my man. I do appreciate that. It will go on the bands. But, you know, it's Christmas. Just keep on your money, people. We're good over here. So, like I say, got the juices flowing again last night. Boxing for me will never be what it was. It'll never ever be what it was. You know, the golden eras of boxing, as far as I'm concerned, are over, and they'll never come back. But last night got the juices flowing. You know, it was good to watch. Street beefs, thank you, my brother. But listen, you know, it's not the reason we come on here, bro. You know, I would much rather any £1 or £2 that anyone's considering putting on this channel, please go out and give it to somebody else. Go out and give it to someone who needs it. Go out and give it to the homeless. Give it to your own kids. Give it to a neighbour. Anything or anybody. You know, we don't require any donations on this channel. But thank you, everybody. So, like I said, going forward, I'd like to see Dubois back in with like another title eliminator or something, perhaps. Now, let's have a look through the comments. See who we've got. See what's cracking. Anonymous. How are you doing, brother? He's got a lisp all of a sudden. I've had a lisp for years. And I've got a cold, not man of war, you wet wipe. Make the top 10, big fella. Who won't make the top 10? Sunshine 29. Hi, well, listen. Big, massive shout out to Jared Warren and full credit to him, my brother. Jamie Lee. That's what was irritating us about. They didn't really know what they were looking at. They didn't know what they were talking about. It was irritating. You know, the fighters weren't getting the credit that they deserved. Some of the moves that Daniel Dubois was making was like stuff we've never seen from him before. Getting backed up against the rope, stepping across and spinning round on the man. Like, we've never really seen that level of boxing and fluidity and footwork before. And he's not getting the credit for it. You know, it was irritating. Miller was frustrating as hell. Yes, he was. Glenn Hunt. Live in Carlisle. Good man. I hope you're well. Correct, Gary Shaw. Boom. That's two good fights to make, Brian. Yes, he did. Yes, he did, Martin Gallen. I was made up for the man. Dubois, Joshua. Yeah, I'd love to see it. I think a lot of people would as well. And like I say, these type of fights, I think, are only going to get made now in Saudi where the money is. You know, that's really what I think. Putting it on in the O2 and, you know, and giving them, trying to give someone 80 grand or something like that, it's not going to happen. Not now. Not now with these Saudis on the scene. Right. I'm getting DJ up. We're going swimming shortly. I have to go and get a few bits and bats of Alice. I'll be making a video a bit later on telling, you know, saying exactly what's going on with Paul Venice and, you know, what's going to be happening and why I've opened my mouth and so on. All right. I hope everyone has a blessed day. Bye-bye for now. God bless everybody. Ciao for now, people.